In 2013, Jenna and I ran a workshop at Montfort University to which we invited key individuals from 10 voluntary organisations. Our purpose was to involve them in defining an agenda for future research around the management of volunteers, which they would find practically useful.
Following this workshop, the National Trust commissioned us to research a specific question. To what extent is the management of paid staff different to the management of volunteers? Working with Helen Timbrell, Director of Volunteering and Community Involvement, we conducted in-depth case studies at 2 National Trust properties.
We used a range of qualitative methods, including interviews with volunteers, managers and paid staff, periods of observation, and we also asked participants to take photographs and draw pictures so that we gained a rich understanding of the lived experiences of managing volunteers.
So what have we found? In direct response to the research question, we can say that the management of volunteers is and should be significantly different to the management of paid staff. We have identified 5 key differences: performance management, communication, task differentiation, trust and fear, and emotional labour.
In this film, we focus on the last finding because of its prominence in the data and also because the importance of emotional labour is not currently acknowledged in the voluntary and heritage sector.
So, what do we mean by emotional labour? First, all volunteers express what we have termed effective commitment, by which we mean being custodians of the social and cultural heritage, speaking of their love of the place, stories and families, upholding an authentic representation of the past in the here and now, and feeling immersed in the space and place.
We found that all volunteers eloquently and openly communicated this, of which this volunteer's drawing and quote is a good example.
So I've just done a really quick scribble of me in Victorian costume because I think it helps me step into the sense of the history of the place. And I've also done myself, smiling because I like that it makes me feel happy when I come here volunteering and the sense of the spirit of the place and the history.
However, we found that these types of affective commitment were less frequently and openly communicated by managers, or at least this was much more variable.
A second main finding was that volunteers work within a context that is largely free of the usual constraints and controls of the conventional employment relationship. Coupled with their effective commitment, we identify the existence of an unregulated emotional landscape.
Overall, volunteers often feel less constrained in what they say. They have less need to toe the line or bite their tongue. All managers could recollect interchanges with volunteers that were difficult, challenging or extreme. These encounters were imbued with emotion. Managers felt the lasting effect of such incidences, and volunteers often felt strong emotion too: anger, outrage and personal affront. Interestingly, in some cases, paid staff could be envious of volunteers' freedom of self-expression.
Volunteer behaviours are often therefore cast as challenging, and consequently managers can be fearful of volunteers. But what if there is another way of seeing this situation? Within conventional management theory and practice, emotions have been pushed beyond the boundaries of organisations as marginal, disruptive and inefficient. However, within volunteer-driven organisations, what if emotions are actually key to understanding effective management? Compare these 2 quotes from managers. One where the effective commitment is expressed, and the other where it is not.
We found that where managers are seen to actively express their effective commitment, i.e. engage in the emotional, and openly articulated their passion for the story of the place, they were perceived as more effective by their volunteers and faced less difficulties in change processes.
We therefore advocate that the management of emotion is a key volunteer leadership and management skill. One of our recommendations looks at how the performance, expression and management of effective commitment should be a key part of volunteer management training.
In this short film, we've only been able to give you a taste of our findings. Please go to the project website to find the full report and also the recommendations that we've developed for the properties and for the National Trust.
We hope that you found this film interesting and we look forward to receiving your comments, questions and feedback.